lined with treasure. Tricky, unwrapped. The great Nazi art robbery.
Dwarves of Budapest.
A peep at 60s porn. And did Van Gogh fake it?
They're smashing all the windows in the art house.
Tonight at 9 on 4.
Now on 4, in a series made before the death of the Princess of Wales, journalists speak candidly about the relationship between Fleet Street and the monarchy.
By 1980, teams of reporters and photographers from rival tabloids, the Rat Pack, were hot on the trail of Prince Charles. Competition was savage to be the first paper to name the woman the prince would marry. On the 7th of September, the team from the Daily Star got a sighting in Scotland.
I imagine they're having their crumpets.
We did find him fishing, and he had someone with him. Within seconds of us arriving, she got up, turned her back, walked away from us in a straight line, while Charles continued to fish as if nothing had happened, and stood behind a tree. Within a few seconds, a hand appeared round the tree, holding a compact with a mirror, and she held it round the tree to look to see where we were, and used that to walk away, keeping the tree between us and ourselves. We thought, my God, who is this? This is different. To pull out a stunt like that, to think of doing that, we thought we're up against something here.
Which paper was the first to identify the mystery girl is still hotly disputed.
We were the first to reveal that Lady Diana Spencer was the new lady in Charles's life. A few weeks earlier, she had gone to a polo match, and myself and the photographer Arthur Edwards were there, and she had a D, gold D, on a chain around her neck. And Arthur photographed her and sort of tucked it away for the archives, as it were. And we did not realise at that stage that she was there as a guest of Charles. So moving on a few weeks, there she was turning up at Balmoral. And sources within Balmoral, let's put it that way, told us that she just followed him around like a lamb and was obviously totally smitten with him.
The press, too, fell in love. Within 6 weeks, The Sun was predicting marriage. Diana would never leave the headlines. The media's love affair with her would transform the image of the monarchy. But their mutual fascination would have devastating consequences for the royal family and the Princess of Wales. Diana arrived at the right time for the tabloids. Throughout the 80s, royal stories would be used as ammunition in vicious circulation wars. Leading the field would be papers like The Sun and the News of the World, owned by the Australian media magnate, Rupert Murdoch. The global advance of his empire would coincide with the end of any deference towards the monarchy in the popular press.
Have you heard the news about the news of the world?
No member of the royal family would escape exposure. As Prince Andrew would discover when Rupert Murdoch relaunched the News of the World. The paper's editor proposed to kick off with a story of the prince's alleged affair with a former Page 3 girl.
I then outlined the story to Rupert, rather shamefacedly, I think, really. I said, look, there is this story about Vicky Hodge. Vicky Hodge has been around a bit, Rupert, for a long time, and, you know, it's not the most salubrious story of all time. But, you know, that's what I was proposing to lead on, because she's telling all about what happened. And he paused, and there was sort of silence for what seemed like a minute. It was probably about 30 seconds. And I thought, oh, dear. First of all, he asked me how much I'd paid for it. And I think it was £35,000, which then was quite a lot of money. And he said, that's a lot of money. And then there was another pause. He said, I'd read it, and sort of smiled at me.
I think you would have to say that Mr. Murdoch has some responsibility for the way in which his papers treated the royal family. I think his influence was directed to allowing his editors enough of a free rein to ensure that their circulation was always on the increase and was always among the highest.
Mr. Murdoch, sir.
Rupert Murdoch would turn the News of the World and the Sun into Britain's biggest selling papers.
Well, you've had enough photographs. I think we really...
And with Mr. Evans, Mr. Murdoch.
Oh.
And in 1981, he bought the Times and the Sunday Times, to the dismay of some journalists.
There's also some concern being expressed about the difference in quality between the Sunday Times and some of your other newspapers, notably the Sun and the News of the World.
I don't concede any difference in quality. It's a matter of different papers for different publics.
Unlike previous Fleet Street barons, Rupert Murdoch had no interest in earning a peerage or hobnobbing with royalty. His mission was to revolutionize the press.
I talked to Rupert Murdoch at that period. He was passionately against fuddy-duddy Britain, and as I say, the monarchy is part of fuddy-duddy Britain almost by definition. And he felt it was holding us back, and we'd become a much more dynamic economy if we got rid of these kind of handicaps.
I remember him telling me once he was very annoyed with all the workers at the Times. And the place was a slum, always. The only time when they really cleaned up the offices of the Times was in 1985 when it was the bicentenary and they knew the Queen was coming. And then everybody worked very hard and got it all shining and shipshape. Murdoch said to me, why will they only do it for her? Why can't they work properly all the time?
In his native Australia, Rupert Murdoch is openly in favour of replacing the Queen with an elected head of state.
When I was a student here, I used to feel that this was a society that was held down by a very stratified class system, and that the royal family was the pinnacle of that, and that you would never really open up the society to opportunity for everybody until you tackled this class system, and it was very hard to see how you could tackle it with the royal family there. Now I've changed, I've tempered that view a lot, I think, and feeling that it does symbolize a lot of permanence.
He's been circumspect about Britain. He once explained to me in America, we were dining one night on the week a few years ago when The Economist had come out Republican. And he said, gosh, The Economist has a great guts to do that. I would not have the guts to let the Sunday Times or the Times do that because I think it would offend too many of our readers. He's hidden behind a circumlocution that if the British people still want to have a monarchy, they should have one. But there is no question where his sympathies lie. He would get shot of them tomorrow if he could.
Whatever Rupert Murdoch's views about the monarchy, his political sympathies were never in doubt. The Sun backed Margaret Thatcher in every election she fought. And the paper's owner was 100% behind the Prime Minister's mission to free the market and shake up class-bound Britain.
I don't think the Sun is Tory at all. It is Thatcherite, which is something very different. Toryism, to me, the meaning of that word is conservatism and privilege and the old world. Thatcherism has changed for a new world.
Rupert Murdoch's enthusiasm was shared by the Sun's editor, Kelvin Mackenzie, who took over in June 1981.
No, I just said no.
Oh, no, I thought I was forgetting.
Yeah, no. I don't think you've got to understand me. I just said no. You're getting a bit deaf, are you?
Margaret Thatcher and the royal family were the two sides of the fence as far as Kelvin Mackenzie was concerned. Kelvin Mackenzie admired Maggie Thatcher. He may have been told to, of course, but she was his kind of person. She was strong, ruthless, rather cruel, that kind of thing, rather like himself. Therefore, it wouldn't be surprising that he rather sneered at the royal family as representing age-old class and privilege, and so he was happy to put them down at the first opportunity.
When you hear the air attack warning, you and your family must take cover.
During the 1980s, the private lives of the royal family would be sacrificed to the demands of newspaper circulation and the free play of market forces.
The Sun was on a wave. Its circulation was at its very, very high point, over 4 million. There was a sense in which we can do anything. So the combination of having an allegiance with the Prime Minister, but a sense of a gay abandon in relation to the rest of society, meant that it could be very irreverent towards the larger establishment. We can ignore the palace. Mrs. Thatcher appeared herself to be somebody who didn't like the establishment. She was more the Queen that Kelvin admired than the Queen herself.
Well, we call it the current bun, because it's rhyming slang for the sun. That was Kelvin's favourite saying. We called the Queen the baked bean, and I remember saying to Kelvin, I've got a great headline when the Queen dies, Kelvin. He said, what's that? I said, baked bean, brown bread. And he laughed, you know, but it was only fun.
The Royals became known as the Germans, for obvious reasons. If we were unhappy with the way they were performing, we'd go out and take photographs and say we've been whacking the Germans, giving them some more misery, bearing in mind that they could be rude to us, non-stop.
Kelvin would adopt at a conference in the morning a mock and shocked look and say, I'm afraid we've upset the palace. How can we do it today? It was two fingers to the idea of any restraint.
I think the Sun has a good deal to answer for in the way in which the coverage, not only of members of the royal family, but of any notable people, degenerated in the 80s. They brought a new version of irreverence, I think, to general news coverage, and the other tabloid papers found they simply had to do the same kind of thing in order to compete.
As the Sun's circulation rose to record levels, the press discovered Diana.
After the Sun broke the Diana Spencer story, the other tabloids started to try to catch up, and we all turned up at the kindergarten on the day that she walked out and the sunlight was behind her and the famous picture of the skirt. And I think from that moment, a momentum started.
She was delightful. She was immensely flirtatious. You know, she would do the bit down and then look up like that. And she was charming. And she did definitely seduce the media that were with her. I took a decision, and I think some of my colleagues did, that she was a pretty suitable person to become the Princess of Wales.
When Lady Diana appeared on the scene, Prince Charles has said he felt under pressure from his family and the press to marry a virginal Protestant aristocrat. As with all his previous girlfriends, Lady Diana was checked out by the tabloids.
She stopped me in the street one day and she said, why all this harassment? And I said, well, I think, you know, because you're going to be the Prince's bride. And she said, why? She said, just because I don't have a past I said, could be one of the reasons. I said, be actually a very pretty girl. And she actually said, and I said to her, you know, at the time, you know, well, don't forget us, you know, knighthood when you get the job and all that, just as fun. And she laughed.
Although she was only 19, shy Di proved adept at handling the media. Discreet, but unfailingly polite.
Between the two of you, can you say if you're likely to make any announcement soon?
Lady Diana. Lady Diana.
We thought it was going to be announced on his 32nd birthday, but there wasn't, and he told reporters yesterday that it may be coming soon. Have you any comment to make about that?
Lady Diana. Lady Diana.
No comment all round. Did you have a good weekend, though? Good work there.
Despite the pressure, Lady Diana's charm with the media never faltered. And a month after their first story, the Sun decided that Prince Charles would marry her.
We had stories every day, we had pictures every day about her. Newspapers were vying for the latest photograph, and it did become a rolling bandwagon that I think Charles found impossible in the end to resist.
Prince Charles had not asked Lady Diana to marry him when he departed with a group of royal reporters on an 8-week tour of India.
In the background was always her, and we were at on the lawn of the British Embassy in New Delhi. So I think there were 4 reporters, Mail, Express, Mirror and Sun, and we were talking to him, and the subject of her came up.
Prince Charles talked openly about Diana.
He said, I can't live with a woman for 2 years like you possibly could. He said, I've got to get it right first time, because if I don't, you'll be the first to criticize me. And then we thought, this is the one.
He said, why do you think she's the one? And at the time, I think we all of us totally misunderstood what he meant. I thought he meant, why do you think she's the one that I've singled out to marry?
And he said, I hope you won't quote me now, and but, you know, etc. And we said, well, you're putting us in a difficult position, because this is a sensational story. You're talking about the woman who's going to be queen. And the way you're talking about her, it looks as if you intend to marry her. And he said, well, can we strike some sort of agreement? And the agreement we struck then, the 4 of us and him, was that we would write about this meeting and what his views were after the engagement, if there was going to be one. Amazingly, for Fleet Street men, we all kept our word.
It was many years before I realised, and I'm now quite sure of it, that what he really meant was, why do you all think she's the one I should marry? And I think at that stage, his mind was not made up at all, and he was asking a genuine question. Why this one? Why this girl? Why Diana? To a certain extent, it was a marriage made by the media. She was created, if you like, as a bride for Charles.
Four months after the first press sighting, Prince Charles asked Lady Diana Spencer to marry him. In the past, television would not discuss the private feelings of royalty, but now a reporter felt able to ask the future king intimate questions.
Can you find the words to sum up how you feel today, both of you?
Difficult to find the right sort of words, isn't it, really? Just delighted and happy. And I'm amazed that she's been brave enough to take me on.
And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
Well, it
you can put your own interpretation.
Obviously means 2 very happy people.
Yes.
As you can see.
Well, from us, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Very kind.
Newspapers would follow the couple every step of the way to the altar.
In the weeks leading up to the royal marriage, there was so much excitement, so much intense interest, that if one discovered the smallest fact, it became very important. If you found out the name of the person who was going to make the wedding dress. It was a major front page story. I was the first to discover that Charles was going to take Diana on a cruise of the Mediterranean in the Royal Yacht Britannia on their honeymoon, and that it would end in Egypt. That became our front page story, Queen of the Nile. Just that one fact was enough to excite people.
Now this is dress rehearsal for later on.
The week before her wedding, Lady Diana was seen at a polo match, apparently distressed by the intensity of the media's interest in her.
It's not much fun, actually, watching polo when you're being surrounded by people with very long lenses, poking them from all directions at you the entire time. And I think all this adds up to a certain amount of strain each time. And it told eventually. Hardly surprising.
That'll do, thank you very much.
Don't get it. Well, anybody near the horse line? We asked you earlier. What, you know, do you understand English? Come on.
Stay back, please, thank you.
By giving and receiving of a ring and by joining of hands, I pronounce that they be man and wife together, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Lady Diana recovered from her horror of the cameras to put on a bravura performance for the royal wedding. The palace and the media together ensured that this was the biggest royal spectacular the world had ever witnessed.
Here was a sparkling princess and a fairy tale romance, and it was something that everybody, even the most cynical, found attractive and interesting and wanted to watch and hear about. We tried to make every move that would help in that direction. And we had thousands of journalists and photographers and camera teams. 700 million people around the world watched the wedding on television.
For the nation, the couple symbolized the triumph of romantic love, and the Sun was on hand to monitor their every gesture.
I had an extremely good contact inside Buckingham Palace. He actually heard the conversation between the parties on the balcony. Andrew said to Charles, "Give her a kiss." And Charles, being a naturally very hesitant sort of man, said, "I'm not getting into that caper." Andrew repeated, "Oh, go on, give her a kiss." And Charles half turned to the Queen and said, "May I?" And the Queen said, "Yes."
And every single one was rewarded by this tender kiss.
Everybody poured cold water on it the next day. And then another newspaper were enterprising enough to ask somebody who specialised in deaf and dumb language and who could read lips to watch the film. And she, a lady, confirmed every word that we'd printed. It was another milestone in the coverage of the royal family, and in this particular instance, it was the royals that created it and not us.
The Times wrote of the wedding, "It is fitting that Prince Charles should enter matrimony when one considers how the royal family is regarded as an exemplar of family life." It was an opinion which would come to haunt them in the years to come.
One of the bits of advice that the Smoke Line booklet had given was that you had to keep reminding yourself of what you were achieving, and that it was a fairly major achievement.
Like to see how comfortable AccuView contact lenses are? Visit your local C. Jeffrey Black optician. Find us in Yellow Pages.
Well, that's the bangers finished. Where's the mash?
Sausages. Buy one, get one free.
For
us computer fans, PC World has got the lot. Britain's biggest choice. All at the low prices we like. Plus expert advice and upgrades. In-home installation to get you started. And 24-hour helplines. Any questions, just ask. That's what we're here for. we'll find the perfect PC for you. Welcome to our world. Don't miss it.
PC World.
Kuye kwamemeza abantu bonke mandulo kumemeza abantu abadala kangaka webantwana nisalalele nga
Umbiko wokufika kwentokozo enkulu nazo inkanyezi enhle naso
sonke mama
yalandelwa izizizwa sifele esweni lo
baba wami
abuza ithuza esho lakho simemeze naswelinye uza sithi uzafikile inkosi yamakhosi inhle naso soza silandele khona sizophumelela
Basta che film.
And it's all worked out beautifully for Ginola, the Renault Laguna.
Oh no, he's really laughing. Dino, she's got 6. Dad, he doesn't have any. Maybe he doesn't have any friends. Mum, she's got 3. And I've got 1. 1 measly 1. 6 for her. 1 for me.
With Atlantic Telecom, you can save 10% off your bill on the 10 numbers you call most frequently. And up to 4 can be international.
Hola, Jose. Hola, Jose.
For information, call free on 0500 400 241.
I hope you're pleased with the picturesque view.
The royal family expected that after the wedding, the media frenzy surrounding the Princess of Wales would die down.
How are you enjoying married life?
Highly recommend.
When the couple went to Scotland after their honeymoon, the palace expressed the hope that after this photo opportunity, they would be left in peace.
The princess mimicked the constant request to hold hands. But they did, and hand in hand returned to the privacy of the castle.
But newspapers and magazines quickly discovered that a photograph of the princess on the front would increase sales by up to 100,000 copies. And as Diana shot to fame as the world's #1 cover girl, Rupert Murdoch and his editor, Kelvin Mackenzie, introduced Sun Bingo to boost circulation.
We've paid out £6 million already, and there's millions more where that came from.
We will kill off some of our rivals in the process.
Do you really think it is going to end like that? Is this a battle to the death, as you describe it?
It is a battle to the death, and our rivals are really feeling the pain.
So what do you think this means for the future of some newspapers in Fleet Street?
Well, I hope it means that some of our rivals are put out of business.
Apart from bingo, Kelvin Mackenzie relied on royal stories.
He would burst through the swing doors of the newsroom and shout across at me, "What's Prince Charles doing at the moment?" And I'd say, "Just having his breakfast." And he'd never quite know if I was taking the mick or not, but he always wanted 110%.
Diana was in the paper every day. Kelvin Mackenzie just was I don't say he was in love with her, but he was in love with the paper she sold, I'm certain.
In 1981, the Sun appointed Diana Queen of Hearts, the very phrase she used to describe herself 14 years later. But behind the scenes, the palace's concern about the effect on her of media interest grew.
From the moment that Diana Spencer arrived on the scene, you were going to get media attention devoted to her unlike anything you'd seen in the world. No film star, no pope, no queen was going to get the sort of attention that she was going to get. The only question was, when would she crack?
You're on your own. Where's your mother?
Michael Shea will tell you, as press officer at the palace at the time, he pleaded with editors to lay off the Princess of Wales.
In December 1981, Michael Shea invited all Fleet Street editors to Buckingham Palace to meet the Queen.
This was an appeal to give it a break, to lay off, to try and get back to some reasonable reporting. Because it wasn't as if there was a specific story, it was just the interest in the princess herself.
Kelvin Mackenzie of The Sun declined to turn up.
I do recall what Kelvin said on that famous occasion, and it had something to do with needing to see Rupert Murdoch, and that being more important than meeting the Queen. Meeting the boss is always more important than meeting the Queen. He always felt that getting too close to the people who were victims in his newspaper was a bad thing.
And the Queen was extremely reasonable, pointing out that it was rough on a girl if she can't walk down the village street and buy a bag of sweets if 30 or 40 photographers chasing her all the time. And the then editor of the News of the World retorted, why can't she send a footman for the sweets? And the Queen made plain that this was one of the most pompous remarks she'd ever heard in her life. And the poor guy collapsed and had to be brought round with gins and tonics and things later.
One editor, Lloyd Turner of the Daily Star, went on television with his reaction to the meeting.
Will it change your attitude? Now that I know that we've been worrying the princess, now that I know that she's concerned and that the Queen is concerned, then of course, all of us, I'm certain, all editors, will say, well, no, that picture is going too far. That picture's been taken by somebody who could have upset the princess in getting it.
The sound of second thoughts from Fleet Street.
2 months after the palace meeting, Prince Charles and his wife, who was pregnant, set off on holiday to the Bahamas. Despite his assurances on television, the Star's editor wanted a picture of the princess.
My editor, Lloyd Turner, rang Michael Shea and said, I'm going to send James Whittaker and Ken Lennox to cover this story. Michael said, absolutely not. This is a private holiday. You're going to get nothing on this. So that was a wonderful red rag to Lloyd Turner, who said, right, James, Kenny, unleash the greyhounds, go and get them.
The Sun heard of the Star's plans.
Kelvin said, what do you think? I said, well, I think we can get it. I'd been to the Bahamas, I think the year before, 2 years before, when Prince Charles was there with another girl. And I got these pictures out. I said, look, that's what I got last time. I think we can get it again. He said, all right, go.
The rival teams crawled through the tropical undergrowth and returned with long-distance shots of the expectant mother in a bikini.
The response to the famous holiday pictures was Kelvin jumping in the air. I think the news editor opened his arms wide and said, yes! We did have the kind of discussion that you did, are we doing the right thing? And we all knew we were going to publish them, whether or not we said we were doing the right thing or not.
The prince and princess were dismayed by this intrusion into their private moments, but an unstoppable bandwagon was now rolling. In 1983, the couple arrived with their baby in Australia for their first official tour. Every day, newspapers demanded a picture of the princess.
The rules were changing. Instead of 7 photographers being there, there was 70. Before, there was one from each paper and a couple of freelances. Now they were coming from France, Germany, Americans were coming to have a look at it, the Japanese were turning up. For us, it was a bit of a nightmare because we had a fairly easy time up until then. But when you're 70 foot over, all squeezed into one spot, trying to climb up ladders, pushing and shoving with each other. Elbows with what you kept yourself safe on.
From Australia, Prince Charles wrote to a friend, "How can anyone, let alone a 21-year-old, be expected to come out of all this obsessed and crazed attention unscathed?" He ended by saying of the media's fixation with his wife, "It frightens me, and I know for a fact that it petrifies Diana." As well as despair at the circus surrounding his wife, Prince Charles was frustrated by the media's response to his official duties. Coverage of a trip to Washington to promote a British art exhibition was dominated by one question.
Dance with the princess, Mr. Travolta? She'd like me to. What sort of dance would you choose for preference?
Oh, something of her choice.
Prince Charles's interests were either ignored or trivialized.
Both of us were proud and delighted to be patrons. But the idea, I think, really is to try and show and the amazing way in which people in Britain collected so much throughout Europe. Hopefully it will show people in this country what they can go and look at when they come to Britain.
He was very irritated. I'd be irritated if I was trying to make a serious point about alternative medicine and people went on about the state of my shoes or my wife's dress.
Well, I'm not a glove puppet, so I can't answer for that, I'm afraid. But I think you enjoyed it, didn't you, Ronnie? Be an idiot if she didn't enjoy dancing with John Travolta, wouldn't she?
But come on now, I mean, that was the game that he was playing. What I think he was trying to do, and I think he did with great success, was actually, every now and then, shift the agenda.
Instead of designing an extension to the elegant facade of the National Gallery, what he's proposed seems to me like a monstrous carbuncle on the face of a much-loved and elegant friend.
Prince Charles's controversial views on modern architecture were applauded in some quarters. But the tabloids began to mock the prince. Enraged, he turned to a group of broadsheet editors to ask them how he could put his message across more effectively.
We all gave different advice, but mine was that he shouldn't be looking for more and better publicity, but he should be looking for less bad publicity and keep his head much more below the parapet. The traditional conduct of the monarchy was the only one that would solve the problem. This was met with horror by the prince, who buried his head in his hands and said that the idea of going back to the role of just launching ships and that ceremonial royal role was totally anathema to him. Would rather wish he hadn't been born rather than go back to that.
The prince's concern for the young unemployed and inner city poverty seemed at odds with Margaret Thatcher's faith in individual enterprise. The prince was not the only member of the royal family rumoured to be out of tune with the government. Stories of a rift between the Queen and the Prime Minister appeared in certain tabloids. Although Mrs. Thatcher was a devoted royalist. Finally, Rupert Murdoch's paper, The Sunday Times, ran a story claiming that the Queen considered her government's policies divisive. The paper said that they had been briefed by the Queen's advisers.
We ran this story, but we made one difference. We sourced it to the palace, and the balloon went up as a result. We didn't play the game, and the palace then ran a mile in distance itself.
The hunt was on for a royal mole. Fingers were pointed at the Queen's press secretary.
Absolutely nothing to...
Some Conservatives are calling for resignations at the palace. Have you anything to say about
I've read
that?
about it. No, I have honestly nothing to add.
Can you categorically say that that leak did not come from the
No,
palace?
I really have nothing to add at all.
In the ensuing row, the palace admitted that Michael Shea had spoken to the Sunday Times.
But I have absolutely nothing to say.
Certain facts about, say, the Commonwealth or the coal strike or whatever were blown up out of all proportion and made into a package that suggested that there was rivalry when none existed.
I thought probably the Sunday Times, as always, was exaggerating, but basically the monarchy and Thatcherism were antagonistic, and so when the Sunday Times said there was this rift, although I didn't necessarily think there had been a specific row going on, nevertheless it seemed to be that there certainly would be a froideur, a tension between these two parts of our constitution.
Both the palace and Downing Street played down the rift. Throughout the 1980s, the government had powerful support from the papers, and there was no move to curb press intrusion into individuals' private lives.
Yeah.
For your comfort and well-being, the Corsair enjoys a smooth new 12-valve engine and Lotus-engineered suspension. The new Corsair from Vauxhall.
The vacuum cleaner explained.
The cleaner sucks air through a bag. That's how it picks up dust.
I see. What's happened now?
Oh, the dust has clogged the bag.
Does that mean the cleaner can't suck properly?
Suppose it does.
Does that always happen?
Yes.
Only one cleaner has no loss of suction. Dyson.
After the first week, I thought, I've done 1 week, I can keep going. You just go another week, you know, phone again and keep getting help like that. It really helped a lot.
Ask for my name. For years, they have force-fed us with a web of deceit. They tell us the planet is round. Them folks over in Australia do not hang with their feet. See, the Earth is flat. And now they expect us to believe that this is lager. Lager? It's smooth. Lager's not smooth.
Got a creamy head.
It takes a long time to settle. Lager should not do this.
Not round, not lager. Not round, not lager.
Mother's Pride traditional Scottish bakery range. It tastes just as good as ever.
Duracell is no ordinary battery. Because Duracell lasts longer, why settle for anything less? Better make it Duracell.
For helpful advice and special offers to improve the energy efficiency of your home, call now.
During the 1980s, the Prince and Princess of Wales press office tried to satisfy the endless demand for pictures of the couple by compromising with the media.
Holidays are supposed to be off limits. We're not supposed to be there. But we are there. A little bit of shuffling goes on. And when we all turn up, Michael or whoever would say, "Look, chaps, this is a private holiday. You can't do this." And we would say, "Michael, can we have one photograph and we will all go away?" "I will put it to them," he will say, "but I must have promises from each one of you that you'll all be on the next flight out." Michael or whoever would come back and say, "Right, chaps, 11 o'clock tomorrow, 15 minutes only, we will just do a straightforward picture. No funny hats." And we would say, "Oh, we need the funny hats." And we would try to argue up the picture. If the children were there, we need the children. There would be a bartering job. It was an Arab souk. And the rules would be laid out and we would get some form of picture.
Prince and Princess of Wales will then come to the location where the press will be assembled. They will ski towards you, stop in front of you for the photo opportunity, and then ski away. We would hope that nobody would follow them skiing.
If the picture was rotten, we wouldn't go away. Michael or whoever would say, "You promised to go away." Well, we didn't get a picture worth publishing, but it's in all the papers this morning, but it's not in the front page, it's in page 13, we would say. And it would go on like this. It would be a game which was played to the full limits. They would come and pose for pictures, and they would get rid of 90% of us at that time. But then the real paparazzi would stay on. They wouldn't even come to the first one because they couldn't sell that one because everyone else would have it. What the hell? But they could sell the one 3 days later, and that's where they'd make their money.
The newspapers had created a market for snatched pictures, which the palace found impossible to control. And so the royal family turned to another medium to satisfy the public's appetite for images of them. The palace could dictate terms for television appearances. And in just over a year, there were 3 royal Wogans.
There was a period where there were too many revealing, in-depth interviews going on. I take certain blame for some of the earlier affairs because I was constantly trying to open the door, roll the carpet back a bit.
Old hand at all of this, aren't you? Radio last
Too much
week,
was given away
television
about private lives.
Headlines right the way through it all.
And the problem about that is that once you've revealed private details of private lives, just as politicians find increasingly, then later on, a few weeks later, a few months later, if the media come and say, "Now tell us more about this particular aspect of your private life," and you say, "No, I'm not going to say that," then how do you answer the question, "Well, you've already done so"?
I think that the period of success for the royal family, when we appeared to be getting to know them quite intimately, and yet we remained fond of them, arose because of a particular historical fact which won't recur, which is that they benefited from the residual strong respect while bringing in the more modern intimacy. If once you've brought in enough of the intimacy for long enough, the respect goes, and it's very hard to win it back.
In 1987, younger members of the royal family joined Prince Edward, by now working in the entertainment business, for a fundraising event which raised £1 million for charity.
And Her Royal Highness the fair Princess Royal.
It's a Royal Knockout was based on a television game show.
It was certainly my view that one or two of the things done in that period, and I'll single out the unfortunate television game It's a Knockout, would have been much better not done. In the 1980s, some of the obsessive interest of the media in the activities of the royal family was brought about by actions taken by some members of the royal family. It was a rather competitive period, and the younger members of the royal family were all trying to carve out roles for themselves and find things to do in public life. Some of them also thought that they were natural stars on television.
The younger royals' entanglement with television left them ripe for exposure and fair game for tabloid revelations. Some members of their domestic staff sold gossip about their employers to papers like The Sun. Upmarket journalists were appalled.
One used to believe that when the Sun published royal stories, as with a good many other Sun stories, that they were, to put it politely, not very reliable. But we've all grudgingly had to face the fact that the Sun's royal stories are far more often accurate than anybody else's. It is widely believed, although the Sun hotly deny it, this is because they offer such very large sums of money to quite humble members of the royal staff. And there have been lots of jokes about trying to find the member of the royal staff not in some way on Rupert Murdoch's payroll. But this may be said, I'm sure the editor of the Sun would say this is the mere jealousy of Fleet Street rivals. I don't know.
The Sun has often paid royal sources for stories and would continue to do so if the story was worthy of payment. There were people that were leaving, like butlers, or there were junior staff who knew little things or might pick up a memo off a notice board, or they might have seen a member of the royal family in the palace doing something that is newsworthy in their terms. But first we had to prove that it was right, which was difficult enough. But no, we were paid royal sources in the same way as we'd pay other people.
Members of the Rat Pack had their own contacts among the entourage of the Prince and Princess of Wales. Wherever the couple went, they were trailed by the pack. Slowly, over the 1980s, stories about the Wales marriage would seep onto the pages of the newspapers.
We would go on tours, and we would discover that Charles and Diana had separate bedrooms. There had been a row the night before over something or other. These things came back to us, as they tend to do, and they were poo-pooed by the palace. They were denied. We were called troublemakers and scandalmongers. The general public didn't believe it either. They thought that we were creating this rift, that having invented the hero and heroine, we were now destroying them.
As early as January 1982, The Sun had claimed that while they were out shooting at Sandringham, the Princess of Wales had had a public row with her husband. A few days later, the paper heard that she'd fallen down the stairs.
Well, those stories always were mega stories. Actually, I've got that story, which I think Harry will agree. That was the early days of the marriage. I mean, Princess Diana was pregnant, and she had this accident. The doctor was called, Prince was concerned, but, you know, they had a row, I think, the week before.
10 years later, the princess would reveal that her fall had been deliberate. The pack was onto a story which would run and run. In November 1982, the Daily Mirror reported that the Princess of Wales had arrived after the Queen for the Festival of Remembrance, a remarkable breach of royal protocol.
I spoke to Diana's sister, Lady Sarah McCorkadale,
and had said, "What happened last night? What's it all about?" And she said to me that there were problems there for her, and that there was a great fear that she was becoming anorexic. It was hotly denied by Buckingham Palace. They thought it was a disgraceful bit of journalism.
To the end, palace officials would refuse to discuss the princess's eating disorders and the couple's private misery.
Please be seated.
You have got the nub of the story, you've got a serious indiscretion or a serious marital problem. It's bad enough without having the world's press prying into every aspect of it. I don't believe anybody, if they have problems, won't realize that that problem wouldn't be made 100 times, 1,000 times worse by having the eyes and the ears of the world poking into every corner of that unhappiness.
At the time, we kept saying, hold on a minute, you've sold us this great love story. You really can't have it both ways. You invited massive, blanket, intrusive publicity into this relationship. And now if it's going wrong, you're telling us to lay off. Well, as a human being, I say yes. But I have to say on behalf of the press, pull the other one.
Maßstäben des Hauses Windsor sicher eher bescheiden sein, festlich nach Bonner Art.
So you had there at that time a real tussle between the insiders who were genuinely worried about a relationship going wrong and a press who, let's face it, had the biggest story they'd ever got. It was the love story gone wrong. And as we all know, the only thing that's a better story than a love story is a love story gone wrong.
Rumours of marriage problems put their relationship under intense public scrutiny. All the press attention was focused on the couple's attitude to each other as the gloomy winter evening closed in.
Finally, a woman who had been pursued for years by the papers would turn to them to tell her story. It would prove a fatal entanglement which would end in tragedy for the princess and crisis for the monarchy.
And the final part of Royals and Reptiles is next Sunday night at the same time of 8 o'clock.
Strangers in a strange land must find their own way, or stumble on hosts that lead them astray. Sirens, calling you tonight at 10 on 4.
Did Van Gogh actually paint the sunflowers? Some startling revelations next on 4 in the first of a new series on all aspects of the arts.
The Italians love their food. They prepare it with passion, cook it with care, and serve it with pride. But they hate having their faces rubbed in it. After England's success in Rome, can the Russians now finish the job? The World Cup qualifier, Russia versus Italy, live and exclusive, Wednesday at 5:15 on 4.
British Airways, the world's favourite airline.
I can't pop round at the moment. No, I'm not in Manchester, you see.
If you can't find the stopcock, just call the plumber down the road.
You know that holiday we were going on? Well, I'm on it. See ya.
I'm doing it. I'm working on it right now. I haven't stopped.
You know what I like about you, Shirley? You've got an over-fertile imagination.
No, it's awful. If I'd known it was like this, Jeffrey, I wouldn't have bought my high heels. I didn't come here to sleep, you know. No, I got much better things to do in my time.
It's a fabulous town. The only thing is, when I take my sunglasses off, I look like a panda. I love you. Take it to the garage. I think it needs a new exhaust.
For the mobile phone network with the best international coverage, the word is Vodafone.
Everyone knows why eggs from free-range hens are so good and so tasty. The same reason why butter from free-range Anchor cows is so pure, so natural, and so creamy tasty. Anchor, the free-range butter.
Yesterday, I had a rotten day at work. I looked perfectly cool in my blue suit and my blue eyeshadow. But those fat baldies I work with are driving me round a twist. When I got home, I needed some TLC, but he wanted to watch his stupid footy. This morning, he's still asleep, snoring. I don't snore, he says. And me, I'm putting orange varnish onto my nails, watching the sun outside the window. Will he miss me at all if I go? Too late. I'm gone.
Let your mind go. Critical.
93 million miles away from Earth, something is happening with potentially devastating effects, threatening life as we know it.
The equipment just blows.
Sunstorm. Monday at 9 on 4. They will prey on you, showing no mercy, because they know they will strike a deal. Car Trouble, Cutting Edge, Tuesday at 9 on 4.
Evidence of dodgy dealing in Van Gogh paintings now on 4 in the first visit to the art house.
Among the tragedies of the American bombing of Japan in 1945 was the loss of a painting of 5 sunflowers by Van Gogh, Japan's favorite artist.
£22.5 million. At £22.5 million. Last time, at £22.5 million, at £22,500,000 for the last time.
Lot 43, this painting of 14 sunflowers by Van Gogh, made almost 3 times the previous record price for a picture.
An export license in all probability will be applied for.
The buyer was from Japan, the Yasuda Fire and Marine Insurance Company of Tokyo. But had they bought a new national treasure or an expensive fake?
Is there any doubt about its authenticity? What a time to ask. No, I don't think there is.
The authenticity question may have seemed a joke at the time, but doubts were already being expressed.
It's a very funny, muddy picture, and Vincent van Gogh was not muddy. Okay, you said, well, it needs to be cleaned and all that. That's not the case. There's something, it's not put together and it doesn't have that snap.
The latest fake scandal hit the auction rooms when Van Gogh's Garden at Auvers was put up for sale in Paris. Press coverage of the sale sparked a media witch hunt of suspicious Van Goghs. It had been suggested that the garden was a fake before the sale, but the auctioneers carried on regardless. The bidding didn't go high enough, and it wasn't actually sold.
Oublié de signaler la parution d'un nouveau catalogue raisonné. Rien de plus clair. Signaler et mettre des réserves.
Richard Rodriguez, a French lawyer and connoisseur, thought it should never have been put up for auction in the first place. He objected, saying a recently published book doubted the picture's authenticity. Since I was told the Sunflowers was a fake back in 1987, I've been longing to have a go at it. As a journalist, fakes have always been my speciality. The Van Gogh fakes were made at the turn of the century, shortly after his death. They got muddled up with his real work, and everyone's assumed ever since that they were genuine. Today, this has produced a fantastic muddle. Estimates of the number of fakes have gone as high as 100. Leading scholars agree that the fakes exist, but they fight among themselves over which they are, and complain bitterly about each other's ignorance in private. The Van Gogh Museum has an embargo on certain family documents. No one has been allowed access to some of the key evidence. Museums and sale rooms hide behind confidentiality clauses. There's just too much money and too many reputations at stake. The case of the Yasuda Sunflowers highlights all these problems.
England's success in Rome, can the Russians now finish the job? The World Cup qualifier, Russia versus Italy, live and exclusive, Wednesday at 5:15 on 4.
In the future, genetics isn't going to be about copies of you, it's going to be about the real you. Reading your DNA will be able to cure some diseases before you know you have them. Just think, in 1959, the Queen sent 400 telegrams to people on their 100th birthday. Last year, it was 3,000. By 2034, it'll be tens of thousands. Maybe I'll get one.
Whatever your opinion of the future, here's a fact. For regular plans, the Equitable Life has amongst the lowest charges of any major UK pension company. So every year, more of your money is invested for the future.
Ad men are always on at me to liven up my advertisements for John Smith's Extra Smooth Bitter.
They don't think it's enough to talk about its extra smooth taste.
What we need's a bit of action, Jackie. They just don't get it, do they? Well, I told them straight. No gimmicks, no dancing ladybirds, and definitely no penguins. Just me in a pub with a pint of John Smith's Extra Smooth. Pure silk in a glass. So if this is a bit dull, you can blame me.
Cut it. That was nice, Jack.
So you're going to put the pub back round in afterwards?
Yeah, that's right, Jack. Yeah, we're going to put it in later.
There's a small nation that is big at heart. A heart that is proud. A heart that beats within us all. For the nation is Scotland, and the heart is ours.
Sunday mail, our heart belongs to you.
Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible, the video, buy it now.
The Wilkinson Sword FX Performer. A razor that's designed to flex, so it gently hugs your face and shaves you close. Fresh thinking from Wilkinson Sword. The feel of smart design.
New body form invisible with Epi-Capped. Holds liquid, then seals it inside. So, as for leaks...
You're tuned to Ray on Reef Radio. Wishing farewell to my good buddy Franco, who's been lured away to the big city for a measly 100% pay raise. So it's goodbye to sleepy old Reef Harbor. No more days at the races. No more nights on the town. You're gonna miss popping out for seafood. And I know you'll miss the way they serve Bacardi around here. But you gotta go.
¿Cómo voy a extrañar a ese muchacho? Pues no lo creo.
Welcome to the mean streets of Surrey.
Well, if I'm a psychopath, you're definitely a psychopath.
That little tart's put 10 years on you.
You've been to prison for a lot of things. Quite a few of the things in these photos, actually.
Underworld, soon on 4.
I love your mother. Oh, yeah, you love her too, but it's a bit different, because all you've done is shake off her all your life. It's dangerous! He's a devil! Everything I have, you have to do it!
Now on 4, Hugh Grant blushes as Al McPherson bears all in the TV premiere of Sirens.
I've been there before. He did, but only just.